You enter a large lava-flowing chamber. Smoke and heat rises from the liquid hot magma. An ancient bridge made of red stone flecked in solid gold has shattered over the centuries, leaving no way across. And there, in the gloom, beyond the legions of hell themselves, stands the necromancer of terrible power. At his feet, a strange machine from a future undreamed of strikes at you and again with red lightning from some dark dimension. What will you do? Hey guys, it's Anchor Infernail here, and it is cold, it is dark, it's raining. This would be a good time to give up on my kick-ass new Relic Blade terrain project, right? And my new mini set that I'm working on. But you know what I'm not gonna do? That. I'm gonna keep going. This is one of those moments you show what you're made of as a hobby freak. And I'm gonna get out there in that cold, wet, rainy, dark, cloudy weather, and I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna come with me, and we're gonna beat the crap out of this thing with a cinder block. You know why? Because we like to play D&D, and we like to do it like big old badasses. Get your bearings. Just get used to what this is gonna feel like. Don't worry about dirt, don't worry about water, don't worry about any of it. You're just getting a feel for the weight of the paver. Okay, now when you start getting comfortable, you can start letting it fall a little further. Now what I did wrong when I did this the first time is I dropped my paver from like up here. It bounced like 3 feet because styrofoam turns out is very bouncy. Don't do that because it lands on your toes. So what you want to do is work your way up so that you know like that's not enough. And up here is too much. You want to learn where the threshold of crushing is. Okay, now I'm still being really gentle, even though it's a good amount of work. But I haven't really done any significant gouging yet. So, when you feel like, hey, I have some good starter texture going, and this is part of why I'm using a floodlight, is with the sideways light, you get a very clear sense of exactly how much contour you're getting in your surface. Okay, there's my first real gouge, because I accidentally spun the paver just a little bit. You don't want to be spinning it, or dragging it, or sliding it. That'll tear your foam up. You just want a nice, clean impact. All right, now, when you feel like you got a good layer of starting texture, you can start using edges and corners and go for some better gouging. Like this. Now see that? Just one little hit with a corner, it makes a serious gouge. So you got to be very careful. It does not take much force at all with edges and corners. See that? All right. Now we're going to get freaky. Just not even caring anymore. And if there's one area where you're allowed to go further than you should, it's around the edges, because you can always clean up with your X-Acto knife. So that's where you can be a little more bold with the gouging like that. Using the corners, using the edges. You can probably see, because of the floodlight, gives you that nice relief and view of how much relief you're really getting. You don't want to gouge it up so much that it's going to be uneven or like minis won't stand on it. So you want to control how crazy you get. Now if you're making walls out of this stuff, you got to do both sides. I'm doing base piece with this. I've already done a two-sided one that's in the lair right now, so I don't have to do that again. But I'm about there. The last thing I don't like is this edge. It's just too clean. And no amount of X-Acto cutting that I'm going to do is going to look natural enough. So I'm going to bash the hell out of it. Okay, so you can see I've got some spots. You're like, whoa, he got crazy. It's just because I'm tired. But don't worry, just let it sit. When you're back in your lab, you can always glue things back in and you can tailor make it how you want it. You don't have to put up with anything that happens here that you don't like. Okay, I think I'm good. So you want to use a heavy rock, because if you use a small rock, it's going to make little gouges and pockmarks, and it just won't look like large chunks of excitement are happening. It just doesn't read right. So unfortunately, get ready for a physical effort and use the weight of it to do the damage, not hitting it with something smaller, because then you'll get these sort of tool marks. You won't get this strange kind of natural look. Okay, so next step is we need to cut the grid into this guy. You guys have all seen how I do a grid that is subtly cut into the stonework of my boards so that you don't have to use rulers and you're sort of set free as far as measuring in your world, whether you use a grid or not. So I just take my good old trusty X-Acto, the most used tool in the toolbox pretty much. And what you're gonna do is use this right here, and you're just gonna try to draw parallel. Don't worry about anything else. It's just parallel. That's all you're doing. So I'm gonna start about yay. And I'm just going to try to go parallel. So you see what's happening there? You see how my blade had some tears in it along the way? Even though I want like a torn and brutalized landscape, I don't want tears. The reason is often on a used tip, you will get a tiny little burr on your X-Acto and it will cause tears. It's real easy to get rid of. Just find some concrete and do this. And you've probably got hundreds of X-Acto blades anyway, so it's not like you're worried about ruining this. And then you want to feel it until you can't feel any burr, and then let's try again. Again, all I'm doing is going parallel. See how it's not tearing it this time? Okay, we're back in the lab now, coming in from the garage, and as you can see, I've got my grid cut and all my sort of natural rock damage done. But this grid is not going to cut it. You're going to take it a step further. And what you're going to want is a hard object. Sometimes you can use a D6. Sometimes you can use a tool like this. What you want to do is where your lines are on your grid, you want to find those junctures and punch them like that. See what I just did? You want to do that across your entire board. Now I don't know if I want to like put you through watching me do that about 475 times. But here's another one, right? So there's a little juncture. So I take the corner of my tool and I squish it. See how it put like one little break, and then I'll use my tool at a slightly different angle. Like that. I know that doesn't seem like much, but when you do it across the entire span of this surface, each little square is going to start looking like a separate piece of rock. So like you find a little juncture, do that. Find a juncture, do that. Do that. And just do this across your entire board. In time, all the little squares will look like separate little pieces of rock. Just by punching the corners like that. See how? That's how you get that little, I'm a little square piece of rock look. So we've got the grid cut. We did all our smashing, and we've also sort of micro detailed our grid. Now we need to get these edges taken care of because they're still just too square and they break the mood. So here's where I'm going to get out my old buck. So the 3 knives that I use when I'm sculpting with styrene. The first one is, of course, this guy, the Zacto, invaluable. Have hundreds of blades because styrene will tear your blades up. The second is the buck. The buck is my medium-sized blade, and you want different sized blades. If you're trying to do larger cuts with a small knife, you'll find yourself sawing and gouging and getting undesirable things. So the bigger your cut, use a bigger blade. You'll get a nice straight effect. It serves as its own ruler. You get all kinds of benefits. And this is also, I mean, it's an American classic. And the third knife that I use is the Sentoku, which is this one. And this I just basically sharpen on concrete and use it for large straight cuts. Zoom in a little bit here. I'll show you basically how I dress up the sides of my battle boards. All right, so come on and get nice and cozy in here. Oh, good God. Let's bring you down a little bit. Don't bring me down, Bruce. Everybody's telling Bruce what to do. All right, so there's the edge. Okay, right here. So what you want to do is just start by getting warmed up. And every once in a while, by the way, this is going to be the messiest step in the whole process. You're going to be dropping foam everywhere, but just love yourself anyway. So the thing you can start doing is doing wedge cuts where your grid lines meet the edge of the board. It's a natural place for stone to calve off in chunks. So you see that, how I got that little wedge? Now, yeah, you're going to compromise some of the walkability or usability of these spaces, but it's totally okay. You're not here to worry about all that. You're just here to do cool things. So wedge cuts are easy. You just go like that. You cut in and then find your cut with your knife. Like that, and just let the pieces fall away. Now this is getting a little hairy in here, but I kind of like it. So to play it up, I'm going to put like, can you see that? Yeah, I'm going to put like a gouge cut right here. Now this isn't easy to do for a tripod, so I'm a little off balance. There we go. So now don't worry about too much about cleanliness yet, but you do want to generally try to cut clean. See, like that? That's a real clean cut. So the more you pull and the more you saw, you'll get really clean little cuts. But clean isn't always what you want. Sometimes you really do want this kind of like, if you pop out a piece like this, can you see that? Just barely, huh? So if you go like this and then pop it out like that without even cutting it, you'll get a nice little bit of rough hewn look in there, a much more natural look. And blending natural and rough is what's going to give you that magical look and feel. If you do too many natural or you do too many straight, it's just not going to feel right. The rhythm is what's going to make it feel right. So you see how I ever so carefully removed these 2 chunks? That's because I want these chunks. These chunks are cool. Get your handy dandy glue gun and just start spewing in here. Make a mess. There you go. That'll do it. Then put your chunks back where they came from. Just like that. Just like meow. Right? Now if you have a little gap that you don't like, just pluck a little piece off and stuff it down in there. Maybe take a little piece from here and stuff it down in there. You see, what you're doing is creating this look that lots of rocks have come together to make this. So there, I'm good. Now I don't like that right there, so I'm going to carve it off. See what I did? So the whole thing suddenly takes on a more natural look. And I'll go in, pop out, and there I've got a nice little piece of damage. And that's how I'm going to continue all the way around the board. So now we're coming around to the corner, right? So saw off a little bit of the top, saw off the bottom and break it out, saw off the corner. Nothing in nature has corners like that. Do this. Maybe make a long gouge. So remember, a wedge cut will give you a gouge. So you go one side, then the other. Then you get a nice little gouge like that. One side, the other. Pop it out. You'll get the best, most believable edge if you have a good sense of visual rhythm. Visual rhythm means don't do too many of one thing. Like, see how I did that wedge cut? Don't just do a wedge cut at every single line mark on the edge like this. Because over time, it gets this weird, totally not natural look, right? So what you want is to just let your hand maybe kind of just guide you, because the whole time your brain is cringing at this. Like, your brain will not like the chaos of what you're doing to your nice piece of styrene that you just put all that work into texture. But rocks and decay and crumbling and debris are defined by chaos. So your job is to have the courage to let chaos occur. Now, oh my God, this thing's a mess. So what I do is this sort of stage, and I guess you could call it like handling, but you're basically cleaning up the board now. You don't want lots of little pieces of debris wherever you're gaming, right? It's not cool. It's not good for paint. It doesn't look good. It's just gonna make your life unpleasant. So since you're in your lab, you can make a mess right now. So it's time to make the worst kind of mess, which is you're basically gonna go in piece by piece, and I'll kind of use my thumb like this, and what I'm doing is looking for loose debris. So I want to spare making a mess later by making a mess now. So I want to get rid of all the little bits. So if it can't stay on under the strain of being sort of rubbed and touched, then it has to go. And so you're just going to work your way around again. You know, each pass you're making on this board, you're going to want to handle the edges more and more and just sort of handle it. And the more you handle it, the cleaner it will become. And you won't get this crumbly kind of look, because you don't want that. It's going to make a mess everywhere you go. So anywhere it can crumble, you want to crumble it and then clean off the crumbles. And it's going to be a little painful at first. You're going to be like, man, I'm losing all kinds of cool little bits. But in the long term, trust me, you'll be very happy you did this step. So just keep going around, basically just using your thumb, using your hand, sort of grabbing at little pieces and just pulling and pulling and pulling and cleaning up all the crumbs. You do not want crumbs. They are annoying. So see how I saw a crumbling edge there? You just rub that crumbling edge until it stops crumbling. And yeah, in spots you're going to lose material you probably didn't want to lose. But it's better to do it now before paint than to be crumbling and seeing the foam underneath later, or making a mess at your buddy's house or whatever. So the other thing is that I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to do a square board this time. I already have a big red board down there that matches this type of terrain. So I wanted to try something new, which was to do triangles. So brace yourself, because I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 3 triangles, because I've never done triangles before and I think it might be interesting. So right now I'm just kind of looking for my straight line. And then I go for it. Okay, so now I hope you can still see me okay, but so what I do is I take my shallow cut that I did, right? There's no way I just cut the foam. I just put a light cut in it. And I'm going to line that cut off right along the edge of my desk here. See that? So it matches there, matches there. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do this with authority, because if you hesitate, you'll make a mess of things. You just got to go for it. Yes. Okay. So what I did there is just a shallow cut. And you can actually see the cut along here is maybe a sixth or so of the surface. But now I get this dope natural surface. It's so cool. All right, so there's that. Triangle's over there. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of dress up on here because it's just a little too clean. All right, so I'm going to do that step off camera because you've already seen that technique. But these are the triangles that I wanted. Now I wanted more. So now I'm going to do 2 of these smaller triangles. So I'm just going to do this. It's like sweet music, isn't it? God, I love that sound. All right. So line the cut up. Get a super firm brace here. Get ready and be decisive. There we go. Okay, so now I have these 3 triangles and I can create these really crazy, sort of weird shapes. And I'm excited by that. I find this exciting and different. I've never had shapes like this. This is crazy. And this is what I want out of my hell world, right? It's this kind of shaping. So I want things that feel like this sort of messed up kind of shapes, and that's how I'm building my Relic Blade terrain set, is with this sort of triangular base shape. So we're going to do some edge dressing on here. I also am going to do a piece of cardboard for lava that's going to go under the whole kit, and I think that's about it. Okay. So I've smoothed out all of my main terrain pieces, and I've got my sort of supplement pieces made, which I've got these 2 sort of bridgey type pieces or thin walls, some small wall pieces that can be used to make barriers, some large wall pieces, you know, for really kind of defining space. And then I have these 2 big sort of cyclopean stairways, which you guys know I love doing in my terrain because it really makes the vertical relief fun. But now to make these fit this hell world look that I'm doing, I need to do a bunch of edging. And as well as edging, I need to do sort of all this etch work. So this kind of etch work like seen on this piece. And then as far as the edging, I want to do like what's seen on this piece. So you see how all the edges have a flute cut into them. So this is a great way to make your terrain, when you're cutting like this, look far more detailed, refined, and finished. And I want to show you exactly how I do it. Zacto, and go about an 1/8 inch from your edge, and go about an 1/8 inch deep. Now, don't worry about that. Then do the same thing again, downward. Then do it again down here. And you're going to do this all the way down the edge of the object. So I hope you can see everything I'm doing here. So don't worry about if you're losing little pieces or whatever. Just rock on with your bad self. Just go. And what you're going for is to try to make these cuts without any tearing or hitching. And since you beat the crap out of this styrofoam, in spots it's going to be a little difficult, but that's all right. You're just going to gently saw and slide, and there you go. So what's the big deal? Okay, now what you're going to do is on a 90-degree angle, you're going to do the exact same thing at the same distance. So see that I'm about 1/8 inch from the edge, and I go about an 1/8 inch deep, and you're going to get these little pieces falling off. Like that. See that little piece that just fell off? That little guy. That's what's going to give you this look. So now on this part, remember you're always pulling, so you might have to get up above. You go like that. And go down, go in, go along here, and it comes free. See there, I kind of got a cool bonus cut there because there was a crack that was deep enough. And it's all going to contribute to this architectural scale to the detailing of your work. See how I'm just like calving off these teeny little pieces of milled foam And sometimes you got to help them off. You know, and I still got some crumbs coming in here from the smashing. But that's okay. That's all right. There we go. See that? So I'm getting this fluting along the edge, which looks far more complex than it really is. So it's always just following the edge vertically, then following the edge horizontally. Okay. So anyway, that's what I'm going to continue to do, is flute all these pieces, and I'm not going to put you through it. So I'll be back when I'm done. Okay guys, we're getting ready to do the black paint. I just do water, and this is for base coat, not for wash or anything. Base coat, a little bit of water, plenty of black paint. And I have a lot of Elmer's glue in this jug here. So I'm going to put some in there. There you go. The Elmer's glue gives you a protective coat. It also makes the styrofoam even stronger. And it makes the paint just has a real substantial thing to it. Now, don't wear your Seahawks jersey while you're doing black paint. I'm not going to do my huge pieces on camera because they take ages to do. So I'm just going to do these are all my smaller chunks. So I'm going to do those ones. So mix up your stuff. Plenty good. You should be seeing a nice, super opaque, black, thick paint on your stick. And that means you made it right. So it will take ages for these things to dry, but they will be super sturdy, perfectly black, opaque, and you will be psyched when you start painting. You're just going to be like, oh my, yes! Hey guys, I'm back. Black basing is now done. So all the pieces have a nice solid layer of opaque black paint with a glue element in there. It doesn't a quite hard seal on your phone, but it makes it a lot stronger. So yeah, that was almost 2 days of time to get that done because the drying time is very long, and then I had to do touch-ups and so on and so forth. I like that black to be really complete. The colors we're going to use are ye old red, it's just simple, black, Georgia clay, or any basically orange or desaturated orange, and that's just to do a little bit of a dirt light sponging to lighten things up. Metallic gold, which we're going to dry brush with. And I also have latte here, and sometimes I'll also do a couple of very light highlights with latte just to catch some edges and make things look not too weird. If you just do red, it can be a little strange looking. It like gets a little too Lucifer looking, and it's overwhelming. So you do want to like earthify some of your reds. Now this isn't as many colors as we're going to wind up with, but I don't really do the whole like million color thing and then pick the one that I want. I just mix my colors. So come on in and let's do this exciting, fun stage here. Your face is fun. This is a stick. To make your first color, so let's do this pretty compact piece first just to get the technique out in the open. You're going to want a nice sponge, a fresh one. The fresher the better because it's nice and flexible and it doesn't have color built in. So once we do the dark, we're going to use this same sponge for the whole process. So you kind of want to use like this part, then this part, and then this part, and this part. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so here's you got your ye old paint plate here. So here you go. Now I'm not really going for any Academy Awards on camera work here. I'm more just trying to get my project done. So if you're frustrated with my camera work, I'm very sorry. So you're going to make a generous amount of this blood red. Like this isn't enough. Let me put it that way. And you don't need that much black. Black takes over things. Black is bossy. So what you're going for is about halfway between red and black. You want this nice dark red. You can see the black coat has done wonders on this stone bashed, crackled surface. It's really, really cool and very believable as ancient and as stone. Okay, so now here's what you want to do. Get this guy, do a little dab-a-dab, dab-a-dab. All right, get about yay much. Then you use the side of your plate and you want to kind of spread it. You don't want big globs of paint on your sponge. You want your sponge to have a nice light layer like that. See that? Going. Here's the magic. It's happening. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just using that place where the paint is. And I'm just doing this. So your sponge won't get into deep recesses. See, so I'm a little bit dark, so I'm going to bring it up just a bit. And this is kind of my test surface, is this staircase piece. And there we go. Now we're getting a brighter. So I don't know if the camera's eyes are as sensitive as my wonderful human eyes, but so now just for each of these, you just do a nice blurb. And what you don't want to do is slide your sponge. See that? See, I'm just, and I'm done. And I'm done. You don't want to scrub at all, because if you scrub, there's no point using a sponge. The point of the sponge is that it kind of includes some texturing in it. And if you let it slide or scrubble with it, it will wipe out the texture. So you can see already the magic is starting to happen. The gaps and the cracks and the depressions stay black. And I hope you don't mind paint on your hands, because you're going to be handling things. Now with this stage, you do want to handle your pieces as little as possible, because your fingers will also nullify some of the cool sound or, you know, texture. I call it sound from your sponge. So your fingers will actually smudge the texturing data from the sponge. So see there, now we're starting to see the magic happen. That's this brick or blood red, which is going to be the base color that we're going to build upon with subsequent colors. Okay, so there you go. Now let's go to time-lapse mode and let's do all this stuff in Wonder Vision. Now we've got our pieces are drying. Now they will get a little lighter as they dry, because wet paint is darker than dry paint, as I'm sure you well know. But we're looking good. The shapes are definitely popping out. So we're getting a lot of little subtle texture with this first coat. Now with the second coat, you're gonna see the paint a lot better, because we're gonna basically do like a bright red with like a little bit of the Georgia clay mixed into it to make it a little more natural than just, you know, pure red. Dream their own dreams. I am like an eagle of sponge painting, and I want to fly over the valleys of creativity to the mountains of freedom. I'm gonna take my red here and I'm gonna load up. Hey, all the true gangsters know. Now I'm just gonna mix in a little bit of the old Georgia clay here. That's just sort of a brownish color. That's just going to earth that red up a little bit. And then I'm mixing right on my hilarious paint plate, which is actually getting weirdly heavy because it has so much paint on it from over the years. But I'm going to mix right on top of this darker brick red, and a little bit's going to find its way in here. Probably not much, I reckon. Just get a teeny little spoogen of black. Just a tiny spoogen. Boop, like that much of a spoogen. Just a little begoigan there, and mix in that begoigan. And look at that, even just that much black really changes my red tone, and now I've got a good tone. What you're gonna do is, once again, let's get a nice, even, look at that, how that black is permeating that red. Amazing. So I'm gonna get a nice, even sponge cover. Hey, is that a new sponge cover? That fits great. All right. So, and this will get better over time as we paint. So there's my little paint area, right? I'm going to go to my piece here. I'm going to go to the area in question. And now I'm really going to sort of go with care, because this is going to be bright colored. So you see, I'm like, the reason I'm being more careful is A, I need less paint, and B, I really want to preserve this texture. Okay, so we got completely dry here. So for our next one, we're going to do, you still have this clean side to your sponge. So you're going to use as much sponge as you can. We're going to actually, I'm going to paint on the paint so that I get this big sponge area. And I'm just going to be like, and that's it. Okay, so the color we're going to do that with is more of good old Georgia clay. Get a little bit of that down there. There we go. Then you're going to mix in your latte. Ooh, giving that a spicy latte. Woo! So this is like a sand color. Come on, latte. Oh, baby. Look at that. Just look at that. Look at that beautiful bean footage. All right, and then we're going to get what tiny amount of red we have left. We're going to redify this sand color just a schmoogin. Just a little Feboygan there. Then I got my little sponge guy here. I'm going to actually mix with the stick so I don't absorb too much. Oh yeah, see that? It's like a tan, sort of like it's like a strawberry donut. All right, so now I'm going to take that color, use my sponge, my little spongy paint thing, I'm going to paint it onto the sponge. Now this seems like, are you out of your mind, dude? No, trust me. This is going to give us this very, very light ability to do texturing here. There you go. See that? Now I have this huge area. Here's my little bridge piece. And now I just go tuck, and I go tuck, tuck. That's it. And what this does is just gives you highlights. Now I'm a little like pinker than I thought I would be, but that's okay. Whatever, it's all good. See, this is all I'm going to do on each piece. Just touchy, touchy, touch. Just the lightest of highlights. Just barely there. Just something to keep the mood up, you know? See, the first one I was a little tense, but now I'm liking the color. So I'm just kind of letting it happen. See that? So what this just gives you is it gives the eye like relief from all this darkness. Okay, now I'm getting a little low on paint. And you know my motto. Don't let your life be difficult just because you don't have enough paint. So, go back. I didn't make quite enough of that color. And that's okay, because I want to shift the color anyway. So on my next mix-up, I'm going to do a little more of a sand and latte mix rather than quite so reddish. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at all that texture. It's just so much information. See there, I just went for it. I did the whole sponge. See, you just get all that data, sound as I like to call it. You sassy little latte. Then, easier on the Georgia clay, right? Just a little, just a Feboygan there, just a little Stangbon. And then, a little red, and that's it. Use your stick. Look at those Stangbons, look at those Fagglebongs, and Kickle Pickles. Dinkle dings. So this one is much more beige. And just leave those as they are, and I'm going to see how this beige comes through on the big boy here. I can already tell too that working with triangles is going to be crazy cool, because just stacking things for storage, like while they're drying and stuff, they're making like pentagram shapes and stuff. It's so dope. Okay, so there's the difference. Look how different that is. It's almost like a skin tone. And now we're gonna pop, 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 pop. See, just ever so light with it. Just a few little thingies. See now, it still kind of goes with my other guys, but it's just so dang light. So we are closing in on the very, very end here, boys and girls. I've never used that term before on the channel, and I don't feel very good about it. Boys and girls? That's like some 50s kind of junk. I promise it won't happen again. Okay, so I'm going to take this little guy that I was using to paint my sponge, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm just going to do some edging. So I'm going to get this paint real light, so I'm just paint it out just like that. And I'm just doing these little hits. See that? And it just gives you like lines and definition on shapes. And then I'll even go in with Fanger. and use my finger and soften it up. And this is a lot like Wylock's sort of edging method, you know. He'll take his hottest color and run it right down those edges. And then use a rag or a sponge or a brush. You can use all kinds of things to soften a line, but I use my finger. I mean, it's right here on my hand, right? Okay, so that's that piece. So I'm going to do these pieces real quick. It helps me if I do sound effects. Tut, 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 tut. And I need all the help I can get. Tut, 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 tut. Ooh, nice. Ooh. Tut, 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 tut. Oh, it's just magical. I tell you, it's magical. So, if you're looking into doing a big terrain set like this, my advice is, first of all, just, get your patience hat on and just enjoy the time it takes, because it is time consuming. But also, believe in the experts out there. Scotty, Wylock, DMG, Pillypow. Those guys know what they're doing. Especially with like washing and doing other tricks and stuff like that. And there's no shame in learning from others. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of shame. Joy. Be a stranger. It's all right. All right. You need your metallic gold. You don't need much. Ooh. You're going to need a paper towel or rag like I use. And let's start with something fun. Let's do the stairs. So everything's dry. Take your brush. Tut, tut, tut. Right? Just get a little of that gold in there. Right on the end. See that? It's just sort of on the end. Then paint it out onto your plate. Get like a little mess going. Now you just have only so much paint on your brush. Now you're going to start light until you get the hang of it and you want to get bolder. So now I'm just painting the paint out onto my rag or my paper towel. See that? So there's very little paint. And you can find out how much paint there is just by painting your hand. Then you're just going to do this. Okay, so I don't have enough paint. But that's a better situation than having too much. If you have too much, you're going to get a big florp of paint and you're going to be sad. So after a few strokes, you'll realize how much paint is the right amount. And what you're going to do is just spritz. You're just going to let it slide. And you especially want to hit it where there are edges to catch, because the edges will catch the paint. Get a little tiny bit more. And oh man, you want ever such a small amount of paint. So the reason you do the paper towel step is that it teaches you how to clean the right amount of paint off your brush. And if you're like me and you've been doing this a bunch, then you're pretty confident with just going like that and having the right amount of paint and feeling it. But then if you feel like you have a little too much and your strokes are too bold, then just go on your paper towel a little bit, come back, spritz, spritz. See how that's giving me that metallic shimmer in the sunlight? Oh God, it's just so pretty. And then the more confident I get, I can start just getting more random with it. See that? And it's going to give this a real like rock feel, because rock often has metallic components. And we're not just going to get a I'm painted red feel. It's going to start feeling a lot more like rock. Okay, so tiny bit of paint. So right now I'm just dipping in the part that I painted onto my plate. So I painted a little area on the plate and then tip, tap, tap, tap. Now I'm going to probably have too much paint on here, so I'm going to find out the hard way. Cha. Okay, not bad. Choo, cha, choo, choo. Pretty strong, but I have a very gentle hand. So if you have a gentle hand, you can get away with it. All right, now most of the paint is gone, so I can start being more klutzy. Now all the paint's gone. Back in that little area I painted, which is now almost dead. Take a look. Ooh, look at that. Again, focusing on corners and edges, which are going to catch the paint. Pretty. Oh, that's pretty. Just sparkling. Okay. Great. So we're just stacking up pieces now. We're killing this right now. Really glad you're tuned in. Glad you're here watching. Nice to have you. Thanks for stopping by. That'll do it. So you don't need a lot. That's the thing. It's like, you'd be amazed how little you need. Now, let's say you forget to wipe off on your towel, okay? What you're gonna get is a big hit. So you can pick like a pit like this one and hit it. Ooh, look at all that. Look at all that gold. See that? Pick an edge, hit it. Okay, now stop, go to your rag, ease up a little bit, now go back to normal mode. See, you got rid of that paint with like a couple careful hits. And you're done. But see, it's counterpoint to some of your other pieces. It shows rhythm. Now you can soften it a little bit. See, I have no paint left, so I can kind of soften. And then it's like this rock had like an extra gold deposit in it. Now I might have a little bit of paint left. Yep. So gonna go real easy on that one and call it good. So it's like one I did with lots, the next one I did with barely any. Now I'm just relaxing. I'm just letting happen whatever's going to happen. I'm in what we call the zone. Oh yeah, look at that. It's just magical, I tell you. It's just the way it catches light and makes all the edging pop. And you know, and like, what formula am I using to decide where to? Nothing. I have no clue what I'm doing. There we go. Ship is about to sail. So now what I'm going to do is set up a board with the stuff I had made before. You know, some of this crazy stuff. Some of it's more gold than others, so I want it to be like pylons and so forth. We're going to set it up. We got our lava board. Let's just see how it all works out, okay? So, shabadoo babadoo deep bam. Okay, so here's your detailed piece inventory on exactly what I created for this Hell World set. So first of all, in the front you have these 3 big triangular chunks. So you saw how that was all created, and here's how they look finished. The fun of these guys is that you can recreate rectangles, like just by sort of joining them. So you can get one giant rectangle with this sort of crack in it. Or by, you know, getting zany with them, they can create a lot of bonkers kind of angles that if you can really play in a lot of deep 3D, that can create a lot of awesome relief for you. So there's a close-up on how that finished look came through. They can also be like backdrops or something crazy because they can sit on edge. And then you also have a big black surface underneath that's got a little bit of red. So if you're going to use that, maybe that could be useful for some kind of crazy idea. I don't know. Okay, so there we go. That's those 3 big pieces. So that's the sort of the foundation. And that's where you get started. That's where your most all your cinder block work is really gonna shine. Okay, then back here you see the sort of the scatter set. So you've got 2 staircases that I made. I don't even know why I made them that height. I was just going with it. I got a couple of these pylon things, and then a few of these sort of bridge-like pieces. I have a carved side and a more like a rough side, so I can make that look like a rock thing, and then make that more look like architecture, and so you get a little bit of double duty there. Did these walls, which also have flat sides so they can be laid flat as sort of stair steps up to one another, and they'll stack pretty good and form structures and stuff like that. I think some of them can stand on end, so you can do it a taller object. So these little guys actually are really humble, but man, do I use those a lot, those 3 little guys. Then I've got the more sort of ritualistic or sort of carved pieces. There's that U-shaped piece, a couple of pieces, and I like to put flat tops on things so that you can always put minis on top of things, especially in like a skirmish type game. You know, that can be important tactically. And then these are something I don't normally do, but I think they fit really well, is these really big sort of semi-natural chunks. So those are made with breaking and then with painting, but they still have some flat and right angles on them, so they can still be used in an architectural way. But they really look like broken fragments of some ancient architecture or something. And then here's sort of an off-shape one to kind of scatter up and not make them look too regular, but make them look. So you can make a path out of this if you wanted. See that? You can make, you know, that could be your actual walkable path, and then put it on your lava. So on that note, then that was the final piece that I did. So there's like a sort of a look at my pieces. So if you're recreating this set there, you can get a sense for the shapes, at least that I did, but you know, you can do anything you can dream up. So then finally, I just took this piece of cardboard here and did this lava board. So the techniques involved here are just wet brushing. So you just take your yellow, your orange, your red, and then at the end your white, and just wet brush these colors together. And what I mean by wet brush is like use plenty of paint and do it all at the same time so you can blend and create all this sort of glowing feeling with your brush. Then when everything is perfectly dry, I go back with a black sponge and do this edging so that you get that crispy, crunchy, dried lava, gross kind of feeling along the edge, and it has to be black too because my playboard is black. All right, here we are at the final pile of insanity. It really feels like a pile of insanity too. So this is the whole set. So you just saw all of the different pieces that I made for this setup, as well as some that I made earlier in the year, in the summer, that kind of led to wanting to make a more complete set for it. So then I just put this room together, but it wasn't really designed as a room until it started just piling up. And I think that's the fun of making a set that isn't just like a series of squares or a series of walls, because that doesn't give you a lot of improv. It still asks you to come up with a floor plan each time. So if you make some of these more irregular pieces, just setting the pieces out can sort of lead to a room. And so I wound up with this kind of scenario with this like infernal machine here, kind of like the scene with Rasputin from Hellboy, right? Where he's got that sick like vacuum tube glove and he's opening that portal and there are a lot of Nazis going crazy and stuff. Well, same thing. These like minions of hell have this machine from the future and he's using it maybe to conjure this guy, or better yet, he's using it to like do this arc lightning. And the arc lightning is keeping our heroes, which are just these two poor wretches right here from Zombicide, keeping them on the far side of this lava river. So the room design would be, you've got to reach this necromancer up here who's got this lightning machine and stop him. And between you and him are these legions of hell. And these legions, some of them are from Rocket Pig miniatures, which I love their Minotaur. That's like going to be my go-to Minotaur from now on. And then several of my Zombicide guys sort of marching down to stop these guys. And then maybe there's other elements, like if they destroy this pylon, the lightning can no longer arc a certain distance. Maybe these bridges are sort of destroyable. Maybe these things could catch fire and be used as spears. This could be destroyed and removed. There's some of the runner type zombies are kind of coming across and jumping. There's sort of a jump going on here. But anything where you can't just run up and fight them and kill them, to me, is a room design. So you could use the heat as a timer, you could use the smoke coming off, you could use the sort of choking effect as like a constitution degradation over time. And then for treats, you probably saw it in some of the close-ups, but there's a little hatch to a little subterranean vault right here. There's a pile of supplies back there, and then there's a treasure chest way back here behind the infernal machine. Then there's the machine itself, which I think maybe like a power component of it could be decoupled and looted, and that could be connected to a weapon to make like a lightning weapon, something like that. And so you get all your pieces that you need as far as timer, threat, and treat without really having to pre-think the whole room. And I think that's the fun of making some of these irregular shapes. Now another thing is that I've actually not really gotten a lot of mileage out of my triangles here. Because I put the triangles into the corners of the rectangle, really it just suggests a rectangular layout that's turned that we're only seeing at a certain angle, right? So another build that I wanted to show, and maybe I'll put it in some photos or something, is I wanted to stack the triangles into this kind of pentagram type shape with all these sort of pointy edges coming out, and then there's bridges and stairs, and it's more like a really weird sort of tower or pyramid. But here I use the triangles to tuck into the corners of my box. And one good thing you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of your lava board is if you can cover its edges. So I really don't need any of these pieces. They're just here to sort of cover the edging of the lava board, which is right here. Now, if you were cooler than me, you would make your lava board exactly fit into your play box. Mine is off by an inch, but I just had this super deluxe piece of cardboard I knew I wanted to use for something. So a thing you could do is if you had sheet cardboard or craft board or something, you could cut it to perfectly fit. Yeah, so here's my hell world. And I've been mentioning as I post the process here that I've been building this for Relic Blade. Actually, the idea that I've been wanting to do is to to run a terrain-driven sort of skirmish-style game next year with an ongoing group, but make it like a campaign and do it without a DM. So there's going to be more videos coming about how that is going to happen, and I'm going to use some of the mechanics that Relic Blade uses as inspiration, but we're also going to bring in some of the magic of index card RPG and basically try to get a DM-less campaign on boards like this. So I feel like I could play a night easily on a board this cool. I mean, we played Zombicide and had a big night, and you're just playing on flat tiles, and it was still a blast, much less playing on something more complex like this. So I think this is going to work out. I hope you guys give a shot to building Hell World. This is my yellow stick. That's it, man. I've been building Hell World so long. Now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. Strength, honor, and beer. Hell World is cool, and so are you. So make stuff, and I'll see you in the world of the D&D internets. Just hankering fur now. I'm out!